We are Nothing. We are a platform where inspiring ideas come together to achieve internationalisation in education. In this episode, we are highlighting the work done at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, where global citizenship and international competencies are embedded in their education. The program logic model is used as a method to internationalise this curriculum. So what is the PLM-tool?
The program logic model actually originates from the business world. Sometimes it's referred to with different names, like the theory of change or the impact model. So you might have seen it with different terms as well. We have adopted the term program logic model for our tool, and we have translated it to the level of a module. What we do is we use the principle of constructive alignment in teaching and learning and in the context of internationalizing a module.
If we want all our students to develop the international mindset and international skills, then that means that we need to be very intentional, and it needs to be then embedded in what we call learning outcomes. So students know what they're expected to demonstrate. And this means that you, as a lecturer, you will need to formulate an international dimension in the learning outcomes.
Why use the PLM tool?
The PLM tool is actually a very practical hands-on tool that supports you in finding out what is that international dimension and how do I do that.
Who uses the PLM tool?
Any lecturer in any field of studies and in any language can use the PLM tool, actually. We have worked with the tool with many different disciplines and in several different countries as well. It can be used to internationalize a module, a project, a coil, a minor, even an entire degree program. But the important thing to consider when using the program logic model is that we are trying to incorporate an international dimension so that we expose students to international elements with the idea that they develop intercultural competencies. The key thing is to incorporate that in the core curriculum so that in modules that reach all of our students so that they all have the opportunity to develop those international competencies.
How can teachers start using the tool?
When you teach a module or a project or a coil project, for example, you can divide your unit into 5 different components. So we have input for a module. By that, you can think of everything that you give to students, like materials or instructions, PowerPoint slides, etc. Then you also have activities. So in your module, you also have students do certain things during the class time. So what do? Do they just listen to you, your lecture? Or do you want them to do certain discussions, role plays? Do you want them to go outside to do field research? So you have certain activities that students do in your module. Then you also have certain output. In other words, the deliverables. What do students hand in at the end of your module or your project? So do they do an exam? Do they hand in a report, a portfolio, a presentation, combination of different things? So that's the output. But obviously, what is most important is what do students actually learn through the experience? And this is what we call outcomes or learning outcomes. So what do you want the students to demonstrate? What should they have learned at the end of your module? And you don't do that in isolation because your module is part of a bigger program, a whole curriculum. And so we also need to think about impact. Your module has impact. So 5 components: input, activities, output, outcomes, and impact. That is what the model consists of.
There is no specific order in the way that we work with the different components of the program logic model. So we may start with activities because that's where we have a first idea. But I may also start with input if that is where I have found some materials that I want to share with my students to add to that international dimension of the module. So it doesn't really matter where you start. It doesn't really matter the order that you follow when you look at constructive alignment across the module, as long as you check all of the elements and make sure that they all make sense and they're constructively aligned in the end. So when we work with lecturers with the program logic model, we also provide examples for the 5 components that can serve as inspiration. Often, these examples are just cues, and lecturers come up with their own ideas on how to internationalize each of the components for their own modules.
What are the experiences of teachers when using the Project Logic model? We asked Tommy from Avans University of Applied Sciences, who not only uses the model for the design, but also lets students work with the model in their project work.
I co-organize an international summit, a conference of sorts here at Avans University. It's a 3-day interdisciplinary pressure cooker where students come together from various faculties to solve a difficult global problem. And we use the model in that conference, in that summit, as sort of the basis for their work.
What is the added value for you?
My favorite way to use the model is, because I work with young people, I lever that youth. I mentioned before idealism. My perspective on the model is that it lets young people sort of tackle that great big global problem that they want to solve. So they can be passionate about cleaning up the ocean or the refugee crisis, or even world peace has come up in some of our sessions in intercultural communication. And by giving students that as the big target, it's easier to convince them to not jump straight into, well, let's try this little thing and this little thing. I let them solve the dream before the steps towards that dream.
By using the program logic model, you can integrate international elements into your course or module. This ensures that the curriculum, learning outcomes, assessment, teaching methods, and student support have an international and future-proof character, allowing students to develop into well-prepared professionals in their field. Would you like to know more about the model and how you can apply it? The extensive tutorial with step-by-step explanation of the model can be found on the link below.